Hi, Mike. Hey, Jeff. Hey
Hey,
there.
John.
Okay, let's go ahead and start. Status of use guides and contributions. So the attributions are being added. Alicia said they would be posted today. She said yesterday, but I checked, and they're not there yet. So those three are pretty much done. I've gone ahead and I've updated. Hopefully, this actually traverses. Do you see this?
Yep.
Okay, all right. I never know when things disappear. So I went ahead and added an update to the profile hierarchy dated this month, and highlighted the service baseline and Ethernet NIC. Um, and the baseline was already released. We just updated it as released, so you can point to that. Um, and then we'll just keep this updated as we um, continue working on the profiles. Okay, pull requests. So, Mike, do you want to go through your changes first?
Sure.
This one.
Uh,
Is this the one?
I made some updates to that one, but I did make some new pull requests that might be more simplistic. So I did fix a few things in this one if you want to go through that first.
Yeah. Do you want to drive or you want me to drive?
Why don't you just go down to the commit that I made? I think that should be sufficient.
This
Oh, I
guy?
actually made a few. Uh, Go through the first one. Of course, I made white space changes.
That's par for the course.
Yeah. Keep scrolling down. Yeah, these are just white
Oh,
space
these are
changes
just
right
white
here.
space. Okay. Oh,
Right,
sorry.
right here. Here the bottom is actually a change. So, changing serial console to be recommended because um, we wanted to preserve backwards compatibility since the current, at least at the time of the original profile, I believe the requirement for getting to the host serial console and describing that capability was conveyed in Manager.
Right.
But we want to make the computer system method recommended for now. Um, put a push pin in that because I want to talk about something I found while following up on that. So let's go to the next commit. What did I do here? Oh, so this broke apart some of the invalid syntax like nesting resources and resources. So I bubbled environment metrics up to its own resource. And if it's implemented, made power watts and power limit watts mandatory. Uh, and then fixed the name of the capacity property and power subsystem. It's part of the resource itself. It's capacity watts. It's not nested deeper. Similar change to thermal subsystem, thermal metrics. So in thermal metrics, if the resource is implemented, you need to have a temperature summary Celsius property with exhaust. So it's trying to break apart those two resources. And then if you go down further, it shows thermal subsystem. Yeah, again, if implemented, then points down to thermal metrics if it is implemented. So it removes that
Oh,
invalid
oh, oh.
nesting.
Okay, okay. So I was trying to figure out what you were doing. Wait a minute.
Yeah, it's
But
because
it ran.
you're defining resources within resources, which breaks the profile definition.
Okay.
So it correctly flattens it out. So that was the change there. Then what was that last change I made? Oh, calling out environment metrics within chassis, marking it as if implemented.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's to align with the resource definition. So if you didn't implement it, then don't have the property.
Okay.
So the push pin I put on there was I started looking around and I wanted to see did we even have a requirement for uh host serial consoles anywhere, and I couldn't find any requirement for that in Manager for published profiles. I don't know if you knew about that or if you knew there was another location I may have missed.
So for host interface, there is
Yeah,
no requirement for host interface. You're right.
because I do see in the server directory there is a serial console property under manager that's required. That's not published. Uh, I
Isn't the
did
one
not
in isn't the one in baseline?
know. There's not one in baseline. Yeah, that's where I was confused. I didn't see. Oh wait, OCP server hardware management has. Okay, I found it now. It is under manager under OCP hardware management, but we don't have it. Uh, OCP baseline hardware.
So if I search for serial console, yeah, I should find it, right?
Yeah, we don't have it in baseline.
I don't.
No,
So, but you're saying we have it in server.
we have it in server in what's published today. But when we started breaking it apart to have a baseline hardware management with a layering of server hardware management on top of that, we lost that requirement, it looks like.
Um, server has always um, referenced baseline.
Not what's in the root directory. So if you look at OCP server management 100 in the root directory,
Hmm.
oh, it does reference baseline. But
Yeah, that was a part of
okay,
my
okay.
original slides. Slide set for
Okay,
server was it? Okay.
but it called out a requirement for a manager resource that pulls in serial console requirements. So we don't have that requirement at all in the in any of the new proposed changes. Which profile are we changing? Oh, okay, I see. Um, so for 1.1, we need to pull that requirement back in for manager because nowhere do we call out a requ we're losing that requirement for having a manager resource that shows the SSH or IPMI consoles.
Okay. So
Yeah, let me put in the chat where we have the
Could
current
you, could you,
requirement.
I think I'm logged out. No, why is it asking me to sign in?
So that's your browser. You're logged in on your browser, but not in GitHub. I'll,
Ah,
I'll put a
ah, ah.
I'll put a comment saying that we lost this requirement and we
Okay.
need to pull it back in. Uh, or we could just enter an issue to say we need to resolve this because right now this issue is just meant to fix the power and thermal changes.
Yeah, following issue because
Yeah, I'll file an issue.
so it should be if implemented, right? Or is it recommended at this point? Because
So
we're moving,
it's recommended under a computer system because that's a newer method of reporting that info, but the current published profile makes it mandatory under manager. And we lost that requirement. So now we basically loosened the definition of the profile to make remote console access just recommended, which I don't think is the intent. Because I thought from a server perspective, there's a requirement for having remote console access.
yeah, there is. But in your previous change, you've made it if implemented on the computer console on computer system, right? So
Correct.
so what are you going to if we bring it back into baseline?
Oh, we don't
What
need.
is
I don't think we need to bring to baseline. We need to
uh,
bring into this profile and to make it mandatory under manager as it was before.
but then someone who's moved it to computer system would fail.
But then you break backwards compatibility.
Then do we roll this to 2.0?
Uh, Up to you. If you want to think about moving to a 2.0, then that would simplify things, and we could start making other changes like dropping thermal and power in favor of power subsystem and thermal subsystem.
That's starting to make a lot more sense.
Because I know we wanted to go to a 2.0 to start pruning out
Hmm.
those deprecated properties for this profile.
Because we could do, yeah. I mean, two things, right? One was we could couple the two, like we did with LED,
Mhm.
where we either had one or the other, but you had to have at least one. That was
The
easier because it
the
was all within the same system.
well, the issue with coupling is these are property requirements in two different resources, so you can't describe that type of coupling today in the profiles. You can only do coupling like that within a single resource. So that made we could do that with LEDs because it's two different properties in the same resource.
Right.
But now we're crossing boundaries, and there's no way with profiles today to describe that coupling.
And we don't think we need it in general. So we don't want to alter the profile syntax to accommodate that.
Yeah, there hasn't been much of a desire to add that, so that's why we don't have that today.
Okay.
It would make profiles a lot more complicated.
Okay. Then I would say I would recommend going to 2.0. And but for me, we have to adhere by the way our revision nomenclature.
So, John, what would you like to do? Should we move to a 2.0 or should we pull in the old requirement for the time being and then plan for 2.0 shortly after?
I would see that's why I would say leave it, make it if implemented, if it's under manager, both, and
But
then have it. Can we comment that this is deprecate it, or we would want you to go to um, put it on the computer system.
But
Because that way,
I thought with the way we want to do the versioning for these profiles that would require going to a 2.0.
no, because if I have an old implementation,
Hmm.
right, with uh, Zero Console on Manager still, it would
Hmm.
work because the requirement was if implemented,
Okay.
right?
Uh,
But if I have a newer implementation, I moved it to computer system, it would pass also. And then we just put a comment within the profile to say,
so would you have to make it if implemented on both sides to make that work?
yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's still, yeah, that could be one way of doing that.
I would do that because this, if you're telling me there's it's kind of an edge condition where we don't want to change the profile to deal with this type of coupling. And then we'll fix it in 2.0 where it becomes mandatory. Because at the same time, we're going to pull in service baseline. Whole bunch of changes going on.
Yeah.
Will that work? You tell me
I
it'll work. I'll make the decision that that's the way we're
it
going.
it the challenges from a testability perspective, it kind of loosens the procedure of testing. So if implemented today is treated as recommended because we don't have a way to really check is it implemented. Um, I'd say it does meet the spirit of the profile, but I don't think it's I think there may be gaps in testing coverage. So I'm okay going that path for the time being.
Okay, then I will file an issue.
I'm drafting it right now.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right. File that issue. So we
Okay,
should be good. I guess we should be good with this pull request and move on.
okay, now I'm going to update the documentation, the usage guide
Okay.
to move the console. If I haven't already.
Okay.
Um, okay, so what I need to do is I stop this share and share something else. I'm going to share my other browser. So okay with it. to the next thing. Oh, the next is so I was doing last month we were talking about uh, DCSCM and trying to do a model. I went through the overall model of it. So I did an initial draft and quickly um, figured out I may have a profile syntax problem. So this component profile is going to be for DCSEM. So my initial draft has actually two files. One file I'll quickly go through. This is the dismiss. Yeah. So this first one is the governance file. So I had thought earlier that all our folders need to have a governance file within it because each of the folders may be owned by different parts of OCP. Um, and so this merely says that this file, until DCH MHS takes ownership of it, um, that this folder is owned by the profile workstream. Has a link to it, and then this will direct people who file issues against this um, folder to go to the right location to have that discussion. So if they file something against cooling environments, they can go to the cooling environments workstream. So this is the document I have just later. Okay. But that's not the issue. So if the wording's fine with this, I'm just going to populate it to each of the folders so they direct people to the right set of work stream that will take up their particular issue. Because once it comes in, it'll get labeled. I should put what the label is, and then the label will direct you to the correct work stream. Okay. So with component profiles, I don't have to go into detail because it's not correct yet. The way the reference profiles work is that they presume a platform or system to connect up to. So when I'm doing a DCSCM kind of just floating there to be attached to some other profile, um, most of our dependencies are referenced on what resource they might be connected to. So in my instance, yeah, I have all these compare requirements. So basically I have a manager. And yes, I have to unwrap these. um, but it has property requirements which are assembly if it's a BMC. And it has thermal subsystems if it's a BMC. It has a power subsystem if it's a BMC, and it has log services if it's a BMC. And I'm wondering, is all this needed?
Hold on, can you scroll back up?
Yeah.
I scroll down to assembly. So you can't make that jump between manager type and assembly. There's no manager type property inside of assembly. So there's no comparison to make.
Oh, I should
Oh,
compare. The comparison needs to be up here.
but you're also putting that. So John, this is another case where you're trying to put resources in resources. You can't expand a resource within another resource with profiles.
Okay.
Yeah, there's also no thermal subsystem in manager. I don't think we have assembly in manager.
We have links to, but this is a links object. Oh, I know what you're doing. I know I did. Okay, you're right. Let me go take another look. I started this yesterday. I said this isn't making sense at all. So I know my first problem is I'm not rolling this out. So let me take another look at it. Okay. Okay. All right. So last part is do we have any issues? I think those were two issues that we.
You could look at the pull requests I opened last week. That should close out a bunch of issues.
Oh, yes, you're right. I gave you a bunch of ARs, didn't I? Which one do you want? This one?
Let's do that one. Yeah, so I took a look at some of the old rear door heat exchanger issues because the profiles were not even conformant to the profile definition. And I also saw that they were making a lot of leaps to say things like, hey, you need to have a voltage sensor with this exact name, and that's not going to scale well at all. And then I realized we already have a proposed 1.0 rear door heat exchanger profile, so why are we even tracking these 0.5 rear door heat exchanger profiles?
Right. So just should
So
remove them. So
I'm just deleting them since
okay.
they've largely been unworked for the last 5 years.
Right. They were started under rack and power.
Yeah, yeah. So that also confused me too. It was the fact that it's under rack and power, where I thought the all the rear door heat exchangers would be under liquid cooling.
Oh, because this was all before cooling environment even existed.
Ah, okay.
I went to rack and power and said, "You guys own power and cooling?" They said, "Yeah." I said, "Fine." And you guys, who wants is there a requirement? I got who stepped up, and they said they wanted to do one for a rear heat exchanger, and he created one. And so I've left it there and say, when you guys are ready to review this and write a usage guide, we'll go talk about it. And so evidently, out of that work group, people pulled it, started looking at it, and started filing issues against it. And so it sat there dormant because I think was it Mike who was working on it? Didn't want to at that point had either drifted off or so. So now when cooling environments existed, and now we have another weirdo heat exchanger, we have duality. Uh, so yeah, so getting rid of old duplicates is a fine thing to do. So I can just merge this and it'll go away.
Yep.
All right. Can I delete your branch?
I don't think so because it's on my
Oh, I
fork.
can't.
That's fine.
Oh,
I'll
okay.
do it's not part of this repo anyway, so it's not going to pollute it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Yes.
Loosen this one.
Yep. Yeah, from discussions a while ago, it was a bit of a stretch to make certain types of metrics mandatory. So within environment metrics, we effectively made several of the properties mandatory that a lot of CDUs today are not going to be tracking total energy or their humidity. So if you scroll down a bit to see the individual properties we've listed out, yeah, basically everything becomes if implemented, as in if you implement in your hardware design, do you have the sensing capability? If you do, then you need to implement this resource and the associated metrics. So this loosened everything from a power consumption perspective to if implemented.
Okay. Any problems with the changes? Oh, okay. Is this removing it from the mockup? Oh.
Uh, oh, it removes it entirely. So UUID is only in the chassis resource.
Hmm.
It's not part of thermal equipment. And there's not really a need to have UUID. I think we just chucked it in there for parity with chassis, but um, yeah, this pulls out an errant property that we're calling as required.
Oh, okay. So they found out I don't need it anyway.
Well, they found it. They said, "Hey, you're telling me to implement a property that doesn't exist in the schema." And looking at going, "Oh yeah, so
Oh,
whoops,
I thought you meant it didn't exist in the products.
no." If
It's
it
not in the
because we do,
schema.
it's not in the schema. We do have it in chassis, so it's required in chassis. I think it
Yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But
But when you're implementing your cooling unit resource, there is no UUID property. If you need to get the UUID of that device, go to the chassis. But
yeah, sure. But what are you running a tool against the profiles?
I think they probably implemented the profile and then it failed the service validator to say, "Hey, you implemented a property that doesn't exist."
Right. And
See,
this debate.
I found these errors by running the doc generator against them.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So you're removing it from the baseline, and so it's affecting all
Yeah.
the other. Okay. Any issues with the change? Huh. Okay. That, that, that can go away. Okay. That's it. And going back to agenda. Okay. Profile updates. So I have server 1.1, which I'm working on, and I'm doing server 2.0 once the service baseline. Once, so I have baseline 1.0, 2.0 to reference the new service baseline. So the other two are mics for Rack PDU and PowerShell.
Where are we with having service baseline published as a formal 1.0?
Oh, that started with that. It will be um, formally published today or tomorrow, the
Oh,
users guide.
okay,
So as
cool.
soon as the users guide goes up, I will move it to um, the root, which is where it exists. Um, and in order not to um, have to go do the document again, because when the document is being reviewed, that pointer to the profile points to the draft inside um, uh, the GitHub repository. That's so everyone who reviews the draft can look at the right one. And then once it is um, approved, right, that profile moves up to the root. So I'm keeping a copy in both places, so the link doesn't break in the document, but they're effectively the same profile, which exists in two places. I haven't figured out how to make that shift more seamless than that.
Hmm.
So I'll be watching today for it. So as soon as it's published, I can send you notes. That's good. Okay. Any questions? Okay. In that case, I think we're done, guys. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you, Mike, for all
Thanks.
your work.
Cool.
Welcome.
I
All right. Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye, guys.